Hey guys, I'm Mark,
I'm Alen.
and welcome to another episode of The Next Man Up. Hey listeners, it's Mark. Welcome to another episode of the Next Man Up podcast. We're so glad that you have joined us once again, and I'm always glad when I get to do this with my partner, Alen. Good to see you again, my friend.
What's up, bro? So good to be here and hanging out with you.
Yeah.
Excited to... Actually, I'm kind of excited to talk about our topic today, so
Yeah?
it should be fun.
I'm not surprised. You are a well-rounded, well-thought, well-read person, and I know that you're going to have a lot of good stuff to contribute today. So I'm looking forward to that.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I just don't view myself as very well-rounded. So it's cool to hear someone else say it's like,
Yeah.
oh, thanks, it's a compliment. I will hold on to that one.
it is a compliment.
Yeah, man. So, yeah, man. MLK Jr. Day.
Yeah,
Martin Luther King Jr. Day.
Yeah.
Observing
yeah,
it and such, man. You know, as a black man in the great United States of America, this is one of these observance days that is pretty dear to me, man. Like I think it's like something that not just black people and not just minorities, but like I think everyone should observe. And we'll get into that here in a moment. But you know, MLK, like since I can remember, he's been like this man on a pedestal for black people, man. Like he did a lot
yeah,
to bring about change and justice and to elevate black people's like rights like in the United States. And he did it not just with sweat and tears, but he did it with his life.
right. He paid the ultimate price.
Yeah, like complete ultimate price of being assassinated, so that you know people can live freely here in the United States and in equal, you know, which is interesting because I think I don't want to go down this bunny trail, but like, what is equal?
Yeah,
and you know maybe that's another thing we talk about another time, but. Yeah, man. Like and you know, even young, like he was like this far off distance dude. You know, like he was like.
What do you mean by that?
Well, just far, like just removed in a sense that you are too godlike, like
yeah,
figure.
okay, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like I can never be like you.
Unreachable.
Unreachable. You know, and so for a long time, it was just almost like one of the last stories that we read that we talked about, a fable.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
Like
A Greek god or
yeah,
something.
you know
right?
what I mean? But the older I get and then the more I've experienced as a black human being in the United States, some good and some healthy and some unhealthy things, I've looked at him and gone, wow, like I get it even more. Like you've done awesome things, but at the same time, it's like, oh, I want to do some of the things that you've done. I want to adapt some of your way of life, your way of living, like in my life, because like I find connection with you.
Yeah.
So he's become less of a fable and more of no. This was a really good human being.
Interesting.
That wanted to do right for people.
Yeah.
He wanted to see people elevate, like around him. You know, Martin Luther King is said to be like one of the greatest leaders of the civil rights movement, which could be said true. Like that is true. It's huge, but he was even more.
Here you're panning out again, right?
You know what I mean? Yeah, like he was even more than that. Like Martin Luther King was, man, he was a human being who like was living life and he had trials and tribulations just like everyone else, you know. as a husband, as a father, as a friend, as a brother. Trials and tribulations, just like anyone else. And so there's a connection there for that with me. Like, no, you're human, and whatnot, and yet you did all these great things to see civil rights be like really like taken on by black people in black Americans, and minorities. But like, man, this dude also aimed to do something that I'm not quite sure a lot of people like got and understood. Towards the end of his life, Martin Luther King started going, wow, civil rights is huge, civil rights is big, and I've been a huge proponent for it. But there's more. There's something more, and he started digging into seeing like, how can I like cross like bridges and grab the hands of white people and black people and bring them together? Like, how can I do that? And through whatever thought process that he had and whatever and how it came to light, like Martin Luther King started aiming at, like, let's see if we can destroy something that we both have in common. Poverty. Poverty, like, man, there's poor white people, there's poor black people.
Yeah, it doesn't discriminate.
Poverty does not discriminate, man.
Yep.
It does not. Like, poverty is something that, like, all ethnic backgrounds can go, yeah, I connect with you in that.
Yeah.
Oh, I totally feel where you're coming from in that.
Yeah.
And he started like trying to come up with ways and to aim at things that shot at the destruction of poverty and elevate all human beings like above it. And what would end up happening is that you would see what he said, black people, like black kids and white children, like all of a sudden they're playing together and they're hanging together, and they're loving well together, and they're being elevated up together.
Yeah.
And racism all of a sudden starts getting destroyed even harder and dying quicker when that happens. He found a commonality within all of our communities and was like, let's aim at this, because this would be the best tool to bring us to really all together.
I'm sorry to admit that for a majority of my life, the Martin Luther King holiday was just a day off of school or a day off of work. And the person was obviously an instrumental figure, but an instrumental figure for black people, and did not have much to do with my life. Obviously, I'm generations removed or decades removed from when he lived, and I've not fought the civil rights struggle and battles that the black community has fought. And so I didn't make the connection. And shame on me, right? Like shame on me. Maybe shame's not the right way to say it, but
yeah, I was about to say. I was like, but yeah, I get what you're trying to say.
Like,
yeah,
it just so. I think what really began to bring it home is when Kristen and I were in Memphis, just visiting some of the memorial and some of the story around him. And we referred to that in a previous episode, the big murals of I Am a Man and what he was trying to do in that context. But what you're so rightly drawing out is that although he was fighting in the context of race and discrimination, really what he was trying to do is to get people to look at each other and see people, not labels, not problems, not less than, greater than, but to look eye to eye with somebody and see the person. Not the things that divide, but the things that are so common and can unite us. And Like I said, it's only been recent, and it took a trip through some of those memorial sites in Memphis for that to really drive home to me.
Yeah.
But I love the way you're describing the cause that he was about was really a human cause.
Yeah.
It wasn't just a black cause; it was a human cause.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean that's what I'm like. When I say, I want to adapt, like I love pulling different things from people's lives and bringing them into my life and adapting it to my life or becoming adaptive to it. Like being for the flourishing of humankind. Martin Luther King was really big on that.
Yeah.
Jr. was really big on that. And you know what? Like most of my heroes in life, most of those that I go, you know what, I can learn a thing from you. That's a big piece for me. I look for that. Like, are you for not just a tribe, so to speak, not just a group of people, but are you for the flourishing of everyone? As a follower of Jesus Christ, like that's something that draws me to him. Is that dude, Jesus, he's not about like certain people. Like
Hold on, Jesus was a Jew. You can't say that.
Yes,
he was for the Jews.
Yes, I can. Like, yeah, I mean, he was for everyone. Like that's big. That's love to me, man.
Yeah.
Like to see justice happen on every scale. To see evil torn down on every scale. And you don't even know me. Like, that's big.
Yeah.
Martin Luther King Jr. was not just thinking about just black people in that day, although he was like, here, we are the ones who are being seriously oppressed right now, and we need to cut that out. Bring justice right now. I mean, don't get me wrong, he amped that up.
Yeah.
But it was spreading to more than just that, and it wasn't just for black people that day. It wasn't just for everyone, not just for human beings that day, but he was setting up something for a legacy for generations to come. Like this idea that our kids will feel this. And dude, that's legacy, man.
It is legacy.
I'm going, dude, what a greater legacy than that. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like I want to see all humans flourish for generations to come, and like I go, that's better than a statue. That's better than money that's still growing. That's better than place it in there.
Yeah.
Like this idea that no, I'm doing something so that someone in some distant land 100 years from now will be able to feel and appreciate and benefit from.
Yeah.
That's dope.
Wow. I was having, this is a little bit of a tangential story, but I was having lunch with a former colleague last week. And we were just talking about how jobs leave this country and go to another country. And I was pushing on him a little bit because he's responsible for some of that in a cost savings effort, moving jobs overseas to save some money for the company. And I'm like, at what point do you think, do you stop and pause and say, hey, I've got an obligation to this country, the people in this country? And he looked at me and was like, is this an American question or is this a humankind question? Because the jobs that I'm putting over here in Manila or India or other places, do you know what this is going to do to the people that will receive these jobs? The steady income, the ability to lift them out of their living conditions and improve life for them and those that come behind. And I'm like, wow. Now I know cost. I know cost was a big factor.
Yeah.
But man, when you put it like that, right? Like, is this really a story of humanity, or is it a story of this tribe that we call America, or this tribe we call white people or black people, right? Like,
man. And that your friend was pretty wise.
He is
in putting it that way.
Yeah.
You know?
It forced me to stop and check my perspective.
Yeah.
You know, is my perspective a flourishing of the human race perspective, or is it, hey, where did quote unquote mine go? Because somebody else is getting what I thought was quote unquote mine.
Belongs to me.
Yeah.
It really does become a question of like, you know, who do I belong to? Mm-hmm. And like I think Martin Luther King Jr. Was a great man. And if there's going to be another human being that I would go, I want to be a man like you, it'd be him. Like he's one of them. Not the only one, but he's one of them.
Yeah.
And so I encourage those out there who are listening, like, check it out. Check out what MLK Jr. Day is really all about, and check out his legacy. Check out what he stood for. I'm not trying to turn this into a political thing or a race thing. No, I'm saying here is a man who has a lot of qualities that I think we want our boys to like grab and hold on to. And here's a man who lived being a man well, despite like being thrown into some lions' dens, so to speak, because of the color of his skin, of where he lived or whatever. Like, he rose above that, and he decided to reach back and grab those who were in the same pit up with him. And then he decided, I'm going to let freedom ring, so to speak.
Yeah.
Like, let it ring out for everyone.
Yeah.
Like, not just my own quote unquote kind, but everyone. And I'm going to make sure that a legacy is laid out for people to follow after for years and years and years to come. Like, that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
And so, it's just not another day, as you were saying, you know, it's just not a day to get off of school.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be just a day to get off of work. It doesn't just have to be a day where we can lounge, but it could be a day of like some great remembering of a great man, like, and someone that we could say, son, like, take a quality of Martin Luther King Jr. and just even if take one, and you be a greater man because of it.
Yeah. I think like the big theme that I'm hearing as you talk and trying to go back maybe 5, 10, 15 years ago when my kids were younger is that Martin Luther King matters to me and to you, son, regardless of our skin color.
Yeah.
And here's why. Yes, it was set in the context of sanitation workers and civil rights and people being oppressed and abused. But his cause was a human cause. Mm-hmm. And here is why I, as a human, can relate to that cause and why it matters to me, even though I'm not a black man. Yeah. And here's why it matters to you, even though you're not a black child. Mm-hmm. Because it's bigger than that. Yes, it's about that, but it's bigger than that. It's more important than that. It's how we look at each other. It's how we treat people. It's how we love each other. It's how we stand up for things that are right and stand against things that are wrong. Yeah. It's how we take that stand. And that calculated stand of I'm willing to take the risk, because this is the right thing to do, and it's mine to do. You know, like this is my cause, this is my calling. Whatever it is, like all of those things apply universally, It doesn't matter skin color, doesn't matter country, doesn't matter language. It's a human issue.
Yeah, man.
And that's the big theme that I'm hearing. And were I to go back and have opportunity again when my kids were younger, I think that's the message that I would send, let's look at this person and what he represented for the human cause, not just disregard it because it was a 1960s black civil rights storyline. The storyline is just so much bigger.
Yeah, it's much bigger than we think. It really is. And there's so many words I want to say, but we don't have the amount of time. One thing I like to just, and this will be my last thing. You're in that human piece. One thing I think we want to teach our boys is equity of themselves, the value, the worth. And I'm a big proponent that as human beings, we are valuable. We are. I believe that God created us with value, and when that value is being stepped on, when that value is being marred, when that value has mud slung at it and it covers it up, we tend to forget how much equity we actually really do have. And what Martin Luther King did really well was he helped show people's value to other people. He was black people are not beneath. Black people are not worthless. Black people are not to be unheard or to be seen.
Yeah.
They have value. And as this progressed, you're right. We started seeing him pouring towards, no, everyone has value. And this is where the equal thing comes to mind. Was it more that we are equal, or was it more that, no, we all have value. We all have equity that should be seen, that should be heard, and we're worth something. And how dare another one of us decide that someone else's value is less than.
Yeah. Yeah.
It should never be that way.
Yeah.
That sounds heroic and whatever, but man, that sounds like justice. You know what I mean? That sounds that sounds like words of something bigger and greater than we are.
Yeah.
And he was really good at doing that, man. And I'm really, I want to own that. And when I see that, I started out saying that he seemed like a fable, and in that way, it's something rises up in me when I see that happening to anyone. Whether you're black, whether you're white, whether you're a woman, whether you're a man, whether you're old or whether you're young, it doesn't matter. When your equity seems to be marred, stepped on, and devalued, something in me personally rises up and goes, how dare any one of us say this person isn't worth anything, isn't valuable in the sight of others and of God himself. How dare us? We need to fix that. You know what I'm saying? It's why I do what I do.
Yeah.
It's why I'm in schools and I travel and speak. This is why I'm doing this podcast, is because everyone is valuable and everyone should know it. And if there's a way that I could say it, if there's a way that I can live it out, then I'm going to do that as much as possible. Because one of my mentors taught me how to do that. You know what I'm saying? One of the men in my life, though I've never known him close as a friend or whatever, but from afar, I've been taught by Martin Luther King Jr. to see everyone as being valuable, and it's rung out in my life and such.
So I'm thinking of the 3 or 4 causes that are important to me, and the application of what you just said. It transcends cause.
Yeah.
You know, this cause, that cause, this cause, right? It applies in any and all causes across the human race, because once you see that we as people, each other have value, then the cause itself becomes the opportunity to remedy whatever the problem is, right?
Yeah.
But the zoom out big picture is we are all valuable. We have inherent worth because we were given that by our Creator.
Yeah.
And if we start there, then man, there's no cause that wouldn't apply to.
Yeah.
And help further.
Yeah, man. I will stop right there because I feel like we can go on for days talking about just different aspects of Martin Luther King Jr., his contribution to our world.
Yeah.
But I appreciate you, Martin Luther King Jr. And for those listening, I hope this helps you observe the day well.
Well, it certainly helps me. And as always, I appreciate your thoughts and your wisdom and your experience and that perspective that's always challenging to look bigger, look broader, look across the whole of humanity for that opportunity to help each other develop and flourish. And for that I'm grateful, and I'm sure our listeners are as well.
I know it's not Christmas, but it's my saying.
Merry Christmas. Well, let's end with that today. All right. Merry Christmas. Hey, listeners, thanks for journeying with us on this Next Man Up podcast. You know, we would love to hear from you. Maybe you have a question or an idea, perhaps a topic for us to consider. If that's you and you want to reach out to us, you can get us at feedback@thenextmanup.com. That's feedback@thenextmanup.com. Again, we'd love to hear from you. Until next time, we'll see you later.